Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Muhammad Suhaimi, F62890. I will present about my part is a background and history. Okay, the part of background and history is macroeconomic performance of the United Kingdoms. The United Kingdom boasts one of the world's largest economies, characterized by its strong financial sector, diverse industrial base, and significant global trade relationships. Over the decades, the UK has experienced various economic cycles, policy shifts, and external challenges that have shaped its macroeconomic landscape. The overview: macroeconomic performance have a two. It is economic structure and key sector, economic growth and performance. Okay, next we go to the last part from my, from my presentation is about economic challenge and future prospect. The UK faces several economic challenges including productivity growth. Enhancing productivity remain a priority to sustain economic growth and competitiveness. Regional disparities. Addressing inequalities between regions, particularly post-industrial areas, requires targeted investment and economic diversification. And number three, technology and innovation. Embracing digital transformation and innovation to drive economic resilience and job creation. And the last one, global economic uncertainty. External factors such as global trade tensions, geopolitical risks, and pandemic pose risks to economic stability. Okay.
This presentation explores the impact of free trade agreements (FTA) on the United Kingdom's economic indicators from 2015 to 2022. We will examine GDP, inflation rate, unemployment rates, trade balance, and also FDI inflows to understand how these indicators evolve in response to significant trade policies. This graph below shows the UK's GDP in billions of USD from 2015 to 2022. The UK's GDP declined after the Brexit referendum, dropping from 2.92 trillion USD in 2015 to 2.65 trillion USD in 2016. The GDP began to recover in 2017, reaching 2.85 trillion USD in 2018, despite ongoing Brexit negotiations. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a significant downturn in 2020, with GDP falling to 2.7 trillion USD. However, post-2020, the GDP showed a strong recovery, rising to 3.18 trillion USD in 2021 and 3.28 trillion USD in 2022, supported by the implementation of new FTAs and the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement. Next, graph below shows the UK's inflation rate from 2015 to 2022. Inflation rates in the UK also saw significant changes from 2015 to 2022. Initially, inflation was low, starting at 0% in 2015 and 0.7% in 2016 due to stable economic conditions and favorable trade relations within the EU. Following the Brexit referendum, inflation spiked to 2.6% in 2017 and 2.5% in 2018, driven by the depreciation of the pound and uncertainties surrounding Brexit. The COVID-19 pandemic led to a decrease in inflation to 0.9% in 2020, reflecting reduced economic activity. However, inflation surged 9.1% in 2022, influenced by global supply chain disruption and increased costs, despite the stabilization effort through FTAs. Next, the UK unemployment rate steadily declined from 5.3% in 2015 to 3.8% in 2019. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a spike in unemployment to 4.5% in 2020. However, with the easing of restriction and the positive impact of new FTAs, unemployment rates improved to 3.7% by 2022. These trade agreements contribute to job creation in export-oriented sectors, supporting economic stability. For the next graph is trade balance. The UK's trade deficit widened from negative 46 billion USD in 2015 to negative 49.8 billion USD in 2016, largely due to the Brexit referendum. Post-2020, the trade deficit narrowed significantly from negative 30.3 billion USD in 2020 to negative 20.5 billion USD in 2022. The implementation of FTAs and EU-UK trade and cooperating agreement helped stabilize trade relations and enhance export performance, contributing to the reduction in the trade deficit. And for the last one is FDI. FDI inflow surged to 196.3 billion USD in 2016, driven by pre-Brexit investment activities. However, post-referendum uncertainty led to a sharp decline in FDI, hitting 19.7 billion USD in 2020. The recovery in FDI inflows to 39.8 billion USD in 2022 reflects the positive impact of new FTAs and the EU-UK trade and cooperation agreement, which restored investor confidence and provided new investment opportunities.
Definition: trade barriers are legal measures implemented primarily to protect a country's domestic economy by increasing sales of domestic products and producers. The purpose to apply the trade barriers is to reduce the number of goods and services that can be imported, and also benefiting governments and protecting a country's domestic economy. Trade barriers typically in form of tariffs, quotas, and tax. Two main types of duties and tax on goods imported into the UK. First, customs duties. Customs duties apply to imported goods valued above £135 and at a rate of 0% to 25% of the goods value except for gift. Second, value-added tax (VAT). VAT is charged on all imported goods except for gift worth £39 or less. Most imported goods have a standard VAT rate of 20%, while health items, fuel heatings, and childcare seats have a VAT reduced rate of 5%, that is 15%, while the essential items, foods, books, and children's clothing are exempt from VAT. Let's take a look into the change in tax policy in UK during pandemic COVID-19. Before 2020, imported primary products from other WTO countries faced higher tariffs. However, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic caused the worst global economic recessions, prompting the UK government to implement the UK Global Tariff (UKGT). Many medical and pharmaceutical goods, including vaccines, are tariff-free under the UKGT.
I will present about goods trade pattern. The United Kingdom has a long and storied history as a global trading nation, dating back centuries to its emergence as a maritime power during the age of exploration and colonization. In modern times, the UK trade landscape has evolved significantly, shaped by economic globalization, technological advancement, and geopolitical shift. One of the defining aspects of UK's trade has been its membership in the European Union (EU), which facilitates seamless trade within the EU single market. However, the decision to leave the EU has voted in the 2016 Brexit referendum and enacted in 2020 marked a pivotal moment in UK trade policy. The impact of Brexit on trade in the first 2 years after leaving the EU was complicated by global events, first the pandemic and then the spike in energy price. The value of total goods import decreased by 52.2 billion euro in 2023 compared with 2022. However, goods import increased by 19.3 billion euro when compared with 2018. Goods import from the EU rose by 11.8 billion euro compared with 2022, but have remained relatively stable throughout the year, while import from non-EU countries fell by 64.1 billion euro. The value of total goods export decreased by 17.4 billion euro when compared with 2022. However, they increased by 23.7 billion euro when compared with 2018. Export to both EU and non-EU countries fell throughout 2023, with EU export falling by 11.5 billion euro and non-EU export by 5.9 billion euro. The commodity pricing trend in 2023. The value of imports and exports have increased since 2018. However, recent volatile price inflation has had a substantial impact on trade. Therefore, after adjusting for inflation, the UK is actually importing and exporting less than it was in 2018. Commodities have not been equally affected by inflation, with some commodities showing a greater difference between value and inflation-adjusted terms. Overall, imports of goods rose by 18.4% in value terms in 2023 compared with 2018. However, after adjusting for inflation, total goods import fell by 3.8%. At the commodity level, several commodities saw large differences between current price and chain volume measure when compared with 2018. The export of goods by commodity, excluding precious metal, current price, and chain volume measure percentage change compared with 2018. Total export of goods rose by 6.7% in value terms in 2023 compared with 2018. However, after adjusting for inflation, total goods import fell by 12.4%. As with import-export of several commodities saw large differences between current price and chain volume measure when compared with 2018. Export of animal and vegetable oils and fats and fuels again saw the largest differences. Export of animal and vegetable oil and fat rose in value terms but fell substantially in inflation-adjusted terms, while fuel export fell in value terms but fell by a larger amount when adjusted for inflation. Export of most commodities rose in value terms when compared with 2018, yet export of all commodities other than crude material fell in inflation-adjusted terms. We can conclude that Brexit has been a disaster for trade. UK service trade is soaring. Service trade was growing quicker than goods long before Brexit in the 2 decades since 2003. Service trade, import and export grew from 33% of the UK's total trade to 45%. The United Kingdom's trade patterns are characterized by a diverse range of sectors, strong ties with both traditional and emerging markets, and strategic initiatives to navigate post-Brexit realities. By leveraging its strength in service, manufacturing, technology, and creative industry, While fostering new trade relationships and promoting innovation, the UK aims to enhance its global competitiveness and sustain economic growth in an evolving global economy.
So, I want to present about service trade pattern. The UK service trade is critical to its economy, accounting for 80% of economic output in 2021 and comprising 47% of export and 29% of imports. The UK has maintained a trade surplus in service since 1966 but a deficit in goods since 1983, highlighting the need for the balanced trade approach. Service trade share. Service trade is crucial for the UK economic, and Brexit has introduced new barrier for service export to the EU. In 2018, service accounted for 80% of UK economic output, 47% of export, and 29% of import. By 2021, the surplus in service had grown, but the goods deficit expands, widening the overall trade deficit. Next, trade surplus in service and trade deficit in goods. The UK trade balance in 2020 showed a significant shift with a trade surplus of 4 billion, equivalent to 0.2% of GDP. This marked for the first time the UK had achieved a trade surplus in goods and service since 1997. The service sector drove this surplus with a surplus of 133 billion accounting for 6.2% of GDP and an increase from 5.2% in 2019. In contrast, the goods sectors continued to record a trade deficit with export value at 309 billion and import value at 437 billion, resulting in a deficit of 100 to 29 billion, equivalent to negative 6.0% of GDP, a slight improvement from negative 6.1% in 2019. The next one is trade in service. In 2022, the UK's largest service export to the EU was other business service, valued at 55 billion and accounting for 38% of all UK service export to the EU. This category includes professional and technical service such as illegal accounting and research and development. The EU was the UK's largest export market for the other business service, accounting for 37% of total UK export in this category. Last but not least, trade in goods. In 2020, road vehicle account for 9% of the UK total goods export, with the USA being the largest market taking up the one-fifth of total export. However, road vehicle export to both USA and EU declined significantly, with the USA experiencing a 37% drop and the EU a 29% drop. The COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown severely impact trade in finished manufactured goods, leading to a substantial decline in production and export due to factory closure and disruption in global supply chain. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Sixth, international factor movement. This figure shows that the net migration United Kingdom in the year 1970 until 1990, UK's economy facing difficult challenge, especially in the wake of the oil crisis of the 1970 and the recession in the early 1980s certainly played a factor in the UK's little increase in net migration as it lost appeal to people looking for stability and work. The UK's economic prosperity between 1990 and 2009 indeed act as a magnet of international migration. The country's consistent economic performance, coupled with the expansion of the European Union, facilitate a considerable influx of immigrants. The period between 2009 and 2021 was marked by significant events that influenced global migration patterns. The aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis severely affecting job prospects and thus the appeal for migrants seeking better opportunities. These figures show the reason people immigration to UK. The first reason is they immigrate for work. The economy of the United Kingdom offers many options, particularly in its river city. Hubs of economic activity, London, Manchester, and Birmingham provide a wide range of jobs in industries like banking, healthcare, technology, and the arts. People from all over the world are drawn to this dynamic work market because it offers the possibility of increased salary and improved professional growth. Besides that, some people also temporarily move to the UK for study. The quality of the UK's higher education system is well known, as is the degree's international prestige and providing the graduate a competitive advantage in the labor market. Lastly, the reason they immigrate was because their family members had become UK citizens. By providing basic healthcare to all residents, the National Health Service (NHS) increased the UK's appeal as a location for families wishing to start a new life.
So this table presents the key component of the UK balance of payment from 2005 to 2022, highlighting the persisting current account deficit driven by a trade deficit in goods, which was partly offset by a surplus in services trade and primary income flow, as well as the fluctuation in the financial account balance. So the highest current account deficit was in 2060 at negative 108 billion. This was likely due to a combination of factors, including a relatively high trade deficit in goods, which is negative 138 billion that year, as well as lower primary income surplus 49 billion compared to previous year. The financial account balance was high at 140 billion, suggesting significant capital inflow helped finance the large current account deficit. The lowest current account deficit was in 2001 at negative 70 billion. This improved position can be attributed to a lower trade deficit in goods, which is negative 105 billion compared to previous year, potentially due to disruption in global trade during the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, the primary income surplus 38 billion provided some offset, while the financial account balance, which is 105 billion, remained relatively strong. So the reason for the highest and lower deficit can be linked to fluctuation in the trade balance, particularly in goods, as well as change in primary income flows, earning from foreign investment, and the ability to finance deficit through capital inflow reflected in the financial account balance. So this table presents the key The graph and table shows three key parts of the UK balance of payment compared to the size of its economy, which is GDP, over several years. The first one is current account balance. This is the overall trade balance for goods, services, and income flow. The UK has run a deficit, which is negative value, every year, meaning it imports more than it exports overall. The second one is good trade balance. This shows the UK trade balance for physical goods only. The UK has a large and persisting deficit here, importing far more goods than it exports. And then the last one is services trade balance. This shows the UK trade balance for services like finance, tourism, and the UK has a sizable surplus in services trade every year. So, the key points are the UK consistently run an overall current account deficit. This deficit is driven by a large good trade deficit, but is it partially offset by a surplus in services trade? So, while the UK struggle with goods trade,
Its strong services sector provided an important counterbalance in its overall trade position relative to GDP.
For comparative advantage part, the analysis part has revealed that the UK demonstrates significant comparative advantage in several key sectors. As depicted in this chart, the UK excelled in the production and export of coin other than legal tender, work of art and antiques, precious metal like silver and platinum, non-monetary gold, and alcoholic beverage. Therefore, to better understand how these advantages have evolved, let's examine the historical trends and the reveal competitive advantage, or RCA, for these top product categories from 2011 to 2022. As we can see in the line chart provided, the UK has maintained a strong competitive advantage in precious metal, stones, and the jewelry production and export. Next, alcoholic beverage, especially Scotch whisky, have been a long-standing comparative advantage. Third, the UK's comparative advantage in essential oil, perfumery, cosmetic, and optical medical apparatus has shown a steady upward trend. Last, the UK has constantly demonstrated a strong comparative advantage in pharmaceutical products. Next, there are several key factors contribute the UK's comparative advantage across these sectors. These include its highly skilled workforce, robust technological innovation and research capabilities, strong intellectual property rights protection, globally recognized reputation and branding, and the presence of industry cluster that fosters specialization. Last, comprehending the UK's comparative advantage patterns is crucial for shaping trade policies, economic strategies, and resource allocation. By focusing on sectors where it excels, the UK can optimize resource use, boost export competitiveness, and maximize economic gains from global trade. Sustaining this advantage requires fostering innovation, investing in R&D, and maintaining a conducive business environment. Targeted measures like skill development programs, research incentive, and infrastructure upgrade can further strengthen key sectors. Leveraging its comparative advantage allows the UK to emerge as a leader in high-value, knowledge-driven industries, propelling economic growth and prosperity.
Number 9 is winners and losers. So we have three parts, which is trade in goods, trade in services, and balance of payment. For trade in goods, overall goods trade contracted significantly post-Brexit. Fuel or energy sector volatile, but real imports fell. Food or agriculture saw value gains but volume losses. Manufacturing strength in autos, aerospace, chemicals, technology and renewable scenes as export opportunities. Next is trade in services. Services sector contribute 80% of economic output. Maintain trade surplus but export and imports decline. And last, other business services remain resilient. For the balance of payment, services, which is finance and professional, maintain strength. Energy export benefited from higher prices. Good trade faced major deficit post-Brexit. FDI inflows initially declined but being addressed. Currency fluctuation impacted competitiveness. Number 9 is inflation peaked at in conclusion, inflation peaked at 9.1% in 2022, showing the UK's sensitivity to global economic threat. The Bank of England's monetary policy tweaks have been critical in containing inflationary pressure. The evolution of UK trade policy following Brexit demonstrates a deliberate approach to developing economic resilience and independence in a globalized world. The UK's trading pattern have been heavily influenced by its historical history, geopolitical location, and industrial power. The products trade industry have suffered major setbacks with decrease in both export and import. This reduction is more severe than in other G7 countries, highlighting broader issue that go beyond Brazil's immediate effects. That's all.